Confessions. Rarity. Twilight spread her still unfamiliar wings as she adjusted herself on the purple reading cushion. Shafts of afternoon sunlight filtered through the window of her tree library. A bit of a tune came from her lips as she turned the pages. Yes, this was a very nice way to spend an afternoon. She was glad that not too much had changed since her coronation of 1 month ago. She wasn't very fond of big, unexpected changes. Still, becoming a princess was a great honor, and since she was a princess in name only, Celestia and Luna did all the work, she didn't need to worry about any official duties. Yeah. Life was good here for Her Serene Majesty Princess Twilight Aurora Sparkle. She turned another page. Of course, the presence of a friend who would make the day even better. There was a sudden knock on her door, making our princess protagonist look up from her book. That was odd. The library door was usually unlocked. All of her friends knew that. The whole town knew that. Who knocks at a door to a library? Wanting to get to the bottom of this perplexing puzzle, she stood up from her comfortable cushion and strode across the wooden floorboards to open the door. She flicked her horn and slid the door open. Her good friend Rarity stood at the door, looking down at the ground. Twilight raised an eyebrow.
Rarity, are you okay?
Rarity nodded.
May I come in? Of course.
Rarity did so, still averting her eyes, and Twilight patted her withers.
Hey, what's wrong?
She pawed at the floor in response. Then, she prostrated herself. Twilight gasped and stepped back.
Rarity, you really don't need to do that.
Rarity managed to look up.
Forgive me, Mother, for I have sinned.
Twilight blinked and flapped her new wings. Right. Alicorn. All alicorns were priestesses. Priests and priestesses heard and absolved sins. She stepped slightly further back.
Rarity,
she stammered.
I really don't know how to do this sort of thing.
Rarity's lips jutted out in a way that could only be described as cute or pouty or trying too hard.
Father Waddle normally hears my confessions, but he told me to leave and never come back.
Twilight shook her head.
Well, that wasn't very nice.
Rarity rolled her eyes.
I know. Honestly, he said to be forgiven of my sins, I actually had to try and change and be a better pony. Can you believe that? I mean, sure, I've confessed the same sin to him every Sunday at 1 o'clock since I was 16, but come on.
Twilight did her best fish impression, her jaws working up and down.
Well, maybe you should try to change?
Rarity sulked.
You're being awfully judgy. Alright. What was the sin?
She patted Rarity's hoof.
I'm sure it wasn't too bad.
She blushed.
Fornication. That's not too bad. Maybe you should tell me what happened?
She affected the warm, patient, motherly tone of Princess Celestia, continuing to pat Rarity's hoof. She scratched the wood with her hoof.
It started when I went to Canterlot, and I drank a bit too much, and then I wandered into the guard barracks.
Twilight blinked.
The barracks are closed to the public. They know me, darling. Fairly well.
The blush deepened.
That story is related to this story, but let's not get distracted. Well, I saw a guard, so I presented, and he mounted me. That was sudden. And after he was done, I just sort of stayed in position. For about an hour after shouting, "The buffet is open, boys!" Not sure why I said that, but I always do. You always do. Rarity, how common of an occurrence is this to you? Every Saturday, darling. Anyway, every sweaty, muscular guard had his way with me, thrusting and pounding my love hull as the others watched. I laid on my belly, my taut and stylish rump in the air, as they all filled me with their massive stallion rods.
As she went on, she began to sweat. After several seconds of describing each muscular guard, Twilight noticed that she was starting to pant. Sweat was dripping down her brow, and she went into detail. It was making Twilight uncomfortable in places she normally didn't feel much of anything.
Rarity, that's enough.
It was making her feel very uncomfortable.
And then Ironhoof did his special technique. Rarity, please!
She was growing red in the face, tingly in other places.
While Silvershot pounded my ass, I used to not enjoy anal, but he was so gentle when he does it. Rarity, for the love of gods, stop talking!
Her chest heaved with the force of shouting. Rarity did so with a little whimper. Being yelled at by a demigoddess had that effect on most mortals. Twilight sighed and hugged her.
I shouldn't have yelled at you, but that was getting uncomfortable.
Rarity nuzzled into her.
I'm sorry. I guess I went a little far.
Twilight took a deep breath, pressing her cheeks to hers.
Why are you doing this? Confessing? No. Well, yes, but no. Why do you feel the need to go to the guard barracks every week and let them do that to you? Because it feels like heaven?
Twilight frowned.
Come on. There's gotta be a deeper reason. Does it make you feel young? Pretty?
Rarity did a little shake.
Darling, I am gorgeous, and I don't need a stallion to make me feel that way. Do you fear intimacy?
She scratched her chin.
What's your relationship with your father like?
Rarity narrowed her eyes.
My father is a saint, Twilight Sparkle. Well, why else?
Twilight scratched her chin.
Do you think it's the only way to get stallions to like you? If I were a stallion, would you ever question it?
Twilight paused.
Fair point. I absolve you of your sins.
Rarity smiled.
Thank you, darling. Only on one condition.
Rarity's ears drooped.
Yes? You invite me next time.
Pinkie Pie. Unfortunately, consequences were still a thing, which existed despite multiple attempts by both ascended mortals and mad gods to correct that flaw in the universe's design. So, next Sunday found both Rarity and Twilight down at the local health department. Fortunately, Twilight was immune to common mortal ailments and all of Rarity's STDs cancelled each other out. Doctors called it a medical marvel. And Twilight, feeling a bit guilty, had convinced Rarity to try and actually cool it for a bit, and Rarity had agreed. Also, Celestia had found out that she'd lost her princess privileges for a week, which basically meant that she wasn't allowed an extra slice of cake at the weekly royal tea party. Cadence had still slipped her one when Celestia and Luna weren't looking, and when Celestia had reinstated her privileges, she hugged her and whispered,
I was still worse.
Twilight hadn't asked what that had meant. A little bit wiser, the new for a second time princess settled on her cushion and started to read. Surely, this time there would be no interruptions and she could finish her book in peace. For a few moments, she lost herself in the story, all the way until the end, which was the last 3 pages. Sighing, she placed the book back on the shelf, using her magic. She lived in a library and had ran out of books. How did that even happen? She stood and stretched. The warm sunlight streaming through the window felt nice on her back, tempting her to actually go outside and read. She trotted over to the bookshelf again, beginning to look through the books, and she had read all of them before, but there might be one that she would like to reread. The door cracked open, and Twilight turned around just as Pinkie trudged in. The party pony appeared peculiarly peckish. Twilight, alarmed, pranced over to her.
Pinkie, are you alright?
Pinkie's lips trembled.
I'm a bad pony. Oh boy. Here we go again.
Twilight reached out and patted Pinkie's curls.
Whatever it is, I'm sure it's not that bad.
Pinkie plopped down on her belly.
I'm a bad, no-good thief.
Twilight could guess what this was about. She continued stroking Pinkie's curls. So floofy. Then she laid down, so she was eye level.
Want to tell me about it?
Pinkie sniffed.
Forgive me, Mommy, for I have sinned. Close enough.
She took a deep breath. Ponies thought that she was a moral guide now. That was mildly terrifying. Pinkie continued.
I ate a whole bag of flour. I was supposed to use it to bake cupcakes, but then I wondered what flour tasted like, because flour makes bread, and that tastes so good, so flour must taste super good, and I did it. I ate a little bit, and I couldn't stop.
Her eyes teared up.
I just kept eating all the flour, the whole bag, and now I'm being punished with a bad tummy ache.
Twilight blinked.
Pinkie, you're not being punished. The reason you have a tummy ache is because your digestive system can't handle all that raw, unprocessed flour.
Pinkie's ears perked up.
Oh, but it was still bad, wasn't it?
She sighed.
Yes, Pinkie, but you are sorry for it, right?
It felt like something a real-life princess would say, so she went with it. Pinkie nodded.
Super duper sorry. Then, I absolve you of your sins.
Pinkie smiled and then hugged her. Twilight hugged back.
Thanks.
Pinkie nuzzled her.
I really needed to tell some pony that, and well, I could have told Father Waddle, but I don't know. You're my friend, and you're so smart, and I knew you'd be able to make me feel better, and...
Her ears drooped.
You have to give me a penance now, don't you?
Twilight nodded. That was the step she'd forgotten with Rarity, though she was wondering if Rarity's confession counted as a confession, or if it was more like a boast.
Well, I think the best thing to do is just buy a new bag of flour. I already did that. I brought it back to Sugar Cube Corner, and then my tummy started feeling wummy.
She rolled over onto her back. That was because that's how long it took for the raw, unprocessed flour to go through her system.
And you'll have to tell the cakes. But they'll dock my pay, ya!
She whined, either from the pain in her stomach or the prospect of telling the cakes.
Sorry, Pinkie. You're gonna have to.
She internally cringed at the aura of authority. It was something she hated, having over her friends. Pinkie sniffled.
Okay. My tummy feels better. Could have been guilt. Yeah.
Pinkie wiggled in search of a more comfortable position.
It still hurts, though.
Twilight reached down and ran a long, soothing stroke over Pinkie's belly.
Feeling better?
The affection brought a sound of satisfaction from Pinkie. Twilight rubbed soothing circles in Pinkie's fluffy belly, noting a hard spot. She softly rubbed there, making Pinkie squirm slightly. Pinkie was mostly still, though, allowing Twilight to run her hooves up and down her stomach.
Do you feel better?
Pinkie smiled, giggling lightly when Twilight brushed against the ticklish spot.
I'm not completely all better, but I do sort of feel better.
Twilight gently ran her hooves all over Pinkie's belly.
Would baking me a cupcake make you feel better?
Pinkie smiled.
Yeah.
The best way to cheer Pinkie up was to suggest doing something to cheer others up. Twilight pressed onto the hard spot on Pinkie's tummy, pressing down. Still doing it as gently as she possibly could, she rubbed the spot. It softened beneath her touch, and Pinkie squirmed, then relaxed. Her stomach was in knots. Her whole body had been tense with the guilt, but the soft touch of Twilight's hooves pressing into her belly was making her relaxed.
Wanna go over to Sugar Cube Corner and bake some cupcakes together?
Pinkie bounded up.
Okie dokie Loki. I should totally get back to work.
She shuffled her hoof.
I still have to tell them though, right? You don't have to right away. Nah, I wanna get it over with.
She paused, looking at Twilight with the most serious expression Twilight had ever seen on her face.
Thanks for listening.
Twilight hesitated.
You're welcome, Pinkie. We all need someone to listen to us sometimes.
Pinkie grabbed her in another hug, which Twilight returned before they walked out of the library together. I love that transition from the first part being an overly sexual deviant to the second one where it's very silly and very sweet. Quite a unique transition indeed. Anywho, I'd love to give a very special thank you to my sweet donators. Top donator, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, Dresdon, Dospo, RuneScythe9852, CourierCruz CI, Delta Omega, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Dwight Cornel, Gaggy, Secret Moon, Tall Russia, Starlight Glimmer, David D. Sanchez, Trey, Pokekiller Zach, Soul Dragon, Dak Britton, Joe Pierce E, Alex F, and Rainbow Dash. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one.